been helping me is I've been drinking tonic water with a quinine because I have
Fever Tree.
Hmm?
Fever Tree tonic water from Walmart. It's got the highest amount of quinine in it.
Okay.
It's a 4-pack.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best. When I had COVID years ago, that's what I did with zinc, and it knocked it out in 3 days.
Okay.
We're live at the moment, yes, but I mean we're not teaching yet. The video is just on. Did you need something, Cindy? Okay, and I'm going to see if I get a thumbs up from Miss Leslie that we have both sight and sound. While we're waiting on that, and we got a few minutes yet before we go live, be sure you silence your phones.
I got my phone ready just in case.
And if you can, put it on something other as soft as you can, so if it goes to vibrating, we don't, sometimes it's almost as loud. Do it that way. Glad you guys could be here. There's normally just a few that will run in right at 7 o'clock. So, Miss Leslie, if you hear and see us, please let us know. Maybe someone here can pull up the YouTube channel on your phone and just verify that you both have some visual and some audio. You got, it's all good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. Our class monitor, Christy's not here tonight, but she sent her I started to say her subordinate, her assistant, with the questions. So if you have need of those that are there, and we'll try to hit the questions in the course of tonight's study. Let me also just mention to you, after tonight, we're 3 or 4 lessons in. Jot down any things that you're liking, things that are good, that we need to continue. Not afraid to hear critiques and criticisms if we can improve in some areas. Things that you see, it'd be better if we had, or it would be nice if we had. We want to hear those things. We want to hear that input from you. All right. Is everybody ready? I said 7 sharp, so we're going to go 7 sharp here in just a moment. If everyone's joining online, welcome. Glad you could be with us tonight. Appreciate you tuning in. And we got more people outside the room than we do inside the room normally watching. So that's cool. Live from Gloucester Point, of all places in the earth. Gloucester Point, Virginia. Where is that? We don't know. Does anyone know where we are? It is hard to spell. Yeah. All right. Okay. Tonight we are in lesson number 4. We've done our orientation, and we have done the 2 lessons of Bereshit. And Bereshit is in the beginning. Am I hearing angel choir preparations back there?
That was an alarm. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. So, does anyone remember what the book name Shemot means? It is names. Names, yes.
1 point for the girls.
Cindy gets a gold. Well, we won't give her a gold star. We'll give her a red star. She's headed to our gold star. Okay, she gets a star. All right, so we are beginning with chapters 1 through 11 primarily here. Come on in. We're just getting started. All right. Yah intentionally, when you read this, you read about Israel going into servitude. Yah intentionally, that's a key word there. It means by design or with forethought. He intentionally allowed Israel to find themselves in a desperate situation of slavery and harsh servitude. He knew this all along. Matter of fact, he warned of this hundreds of years earlier. And Bereshit, well, maybe hundreds of years, generations earlier. In Bereshit, or Genesis chapter 15, verse 13 and 14. And Yahweh said to Avram, know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But the nation whom they serve, I'm going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. And we're talking about the aspect of Yah is our deliverer. But Yah sets up the necessity of deliverance. He does not prevent us from being in trouble, from having high pressure circumstances, or from being in great need. He allows, he even designs harsh realities to reveal himself to us as our great deliverer. And that sounds like, is that manipulation here? What are you doing? If we were never in need of deliverance, we would not know that he could deliver us. So life will, if he steps back any at all, life will put you in a situation where you will need to cry out to him. And then he comes and he reveals himself as your answer. Now let's look at the word deliver. As it is used in this situation, it is the word natsal, which means to draw or pull out. He will draw you out. He will pull you out. That is, he will rescue. He will separate you from your circumstance. And then another way you will do it is that he just simply provides a means of escape. Going back just for a thought here, he did not take Noah and his family and lift them up and above and out of the earth, judge the earth, and then put them back, but he took them through. He delivered them, not by taking them out, but taking them through. So a lot of times we'll be praying, Father, deliver me from this situation. And his answer is, I will deliver you through it. I will take you through it, but it will be a means of deliverance. So though Yah allowed Abraham's future generations to be in slavery, he himself would be the one to draw or pull them out. He separated them from the Mitzrites by the plagues, and then he provided escape for them through the Passover and the death of the firstborn. So we come to our first question. What is it that caused Israel to realize that they even needed a deliverer? It wasn't just the bitterness of hard toil and bondage that you read about in chapter number 1. That's part of it, but it's not just that. They learned to grow and to persevere during the times of harsh bondage. So much so that Pharaoh said, we need another plan. And it may have been the attempt of Pharaoh at genocide, as he commanded all of the newborn males to be killed and then later to be thrown into the Nile. when your government, your administration is advocating genocide against you and your people, that could be a very good clue that you need some deliverance, especially if there's not an election coming up to where you can change administrations. In chapter 2, in verse 23, it says that Israel groaned. Groaned here is the word anach. It's the idea of mourning, of weeping, and wailing as in deep grief. And they groaned like this, as if they were at a dirge or a funeral or mourning the passing of those that had died because of continued slavery under a new administration of Pharaoh. The first Pharaoh that started the issue with Israel, he died, and another one came in, and nothing changed. You find that at the end of chapter 2. Yah then begins to respond to their cries for help and deliverance. And why did he do that? What was Yah's motivation for delivering Israel? Why did he do that? Is it because they cried a lot? Is it because of the volume of their prayers and their voices?
They were the chosen ones.
They were, and that alludes to that. It was a covenant promise to the patriarchs. It says that he remembered the covenant with Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Right?
Mhm.
So the primary motivation wasn't just their distress. How often do we cry out, "Don't you see what I'm going through? Don't you understand the pain that I'm experiencing, or my distress, or my dilemma?" Those things are motivating factors for us to cry out. But Yah responds to us based on covenant relationship. That's where we learn to cry, "Abba, Father. I am your child. I am in covenant relationship with you by Messiah. And your covenant declares you to be my deliverer. I need you to be revealed to me in my situation as my deliverer." Now, tears and loud voices don't hurt. But that's not the primary motivation, it would seem, for Yah. He responds then to our needs because of our covenant relationship with him. His covenant promise, however, was not to only deliver them through the bondage, but also to bring them into the covenant land of promise. Even though it declares in this reading in chapter 3 that the Canaanite people are already living there. The Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, Girgashites, and the rest of the Ite brothers. They're all there. They're all dwelling. They built their cities. They built their walls high to the heavens. They fortified themselves. They have sown their fields, built their homes, and they are in the promised land that belongs to Israel. And Yah says, "I'm going to take you out of the bondage situation, bring you through the wilderness, and put you in the land. And then we're going to drive out all of those that are already living there." So the promise was not just about easing the pain, but it also involved a goal of getting you to where you're supposed to be. That's deliverance. Deliverance is not improvement. Too often when we're crying out for deliverance and improvement takes place, we get satisfied, well, things are better. There has been an improvement. That's not deliverance. That's improvement. Deliverance is when the remedy has been fully activated and the situation is fully resolved. Don't settle for improvement. So Yah's intention is to bring Israel out in order to bring them in. That's highly important for us to remember. Now, how did Yah choose to bring about Israel's deliverance? We had some homework turned in, and there was some good answers there. In order to bring about the deliverance, Yah chose a man to be the facilitator of his might and demonstrated power. When we cry out for deliverance, he's not just going to work miracles, send down a glory cloud, overshadow everything, fix it, and then lift the cloud. He does do the miracles. He does work signs and wonders, but he does it through human agency. There is a delivering facilitator. Anybody want to sign up for the job? All right.
Moses acted as an emissary.
As an emissary, and yeah, in a manner of speaking. So he chooses to use a person with human involvement to speak his truth and to work his signs, his wonders, which is a challenge to a Pharaoh who already thinks himself a demigod in his own right. So Moshe was sent to absolutely confront Pharaoh as Yah's prophet, and eventually Moshe would be seen as a god himself in Pharaoh's own eyes. He says in chapter 3 and verse 20, "And I shall stretch out my hand and strike Mitzrayim with all my wonders, which I shall do in its midst. And after that, he shall let you go." Now, when you hear that verse, how long does it seem like it's going to take? Huh? Just minutes. There'll be one confrontation. We're going to do signs and wonders. The rod's going to become a serpent. I'm going to show him my hand becoming leprous and putting it back and it being healed. And he's going to be so impressed. He's going to say, I can't compete with that. You guys just go. It did not work that way. Matter of fact, later on, Moshe says, "Why did you even bother to send me? Nothing that you said is coming to pass. This is all a dismal failure. I'm a failure. It's only made things worse. Why am I here? I want to go back. Let's quit. I'm done. I'm upset. You failed." What a prayer. Anyone pray that way?
I'm sure he angered God too, immensely.
I think God was just saying, just wait a minute. Just wait. So why miracles? Why is it that Yah chose to employ miracles? Again, this is further answering question number 3 about why Yah chose, what methodology did he choose? He chose miracles because they reveal Yah's reality and his power, but also the one that is doing the miracles, the one that Yah is using to perform the miracles, is to authenticate his chosen deliverer before Israel, before Pharaoh, and before all Mitzrayim. So you have 3 witnesses that need to see the reality of Yah's power. Israel has believed themselves to have been forgotten by Yah, this covenant Elohim of their patriarchs. The patriarchs are way back there at this point. He doesn't know who we are. He's forgotten about us, and Yah shows up and starts doing signs and wonders in their behalf, and they begin to get the clue, wait a minute. He's doing the same kind of stuff for us as he did in those stories that we heard about the patriarchs. Maybe this is going to work. They're not fully on board yet, but they're learning miracle by miracle. And then there is Pharaoh. Pharaoh is in a tug-of-war match, a fight match between himself and between Moshe and this theoretical God that Moshe is serving. Pharaoh's got to be convinced. And after his heart has finally softened, Yah hardens his heart because Yah says, I'm not through playing with him yet. Don't play with Yah because he'll end up playing with you, and that's not good. But not only Pharaoh, but all the people in his land needed to recognize your gods are false. Yah, one by one, systematically dismantled their various gods and destroyed them. Every one of the plagues is attached to a god of Mitzrayite culture. He destroyed them and convinced them there is only one true mighty one, and it's none that you serve. It's just me. It says in chapter 7, verse 5, and the Mitzrites shall know that I am Yahweh when I stretch out my hand on Mitzrayim, and I shall bring the children of Israel out from among them. When they looked around that last day, the next day of Passover, and realized Israel's gone, we're out here digging graves for our firstborn. And they're going out in military fashion with banners flying and singing and rejoicing. They realize their mighty one is greater than ours. Yeah, absolutely. So in our next question, in question number 4, what manner did Yah choose then to lead Israel out? They would not go out secretively. This is not a stealth operation. This is not a cloak and dagger, middle of the night operation where they snuck out of town. They did not slip away in the darkness, and they did not go out crawling on their knees, begging to be let alone. This was not a stampede rush for the gate maneuver, but rather they walked out in high fashion. They walked out in victory. It's very important. They walked out in complete freedom and with great plunder. They did not go out empty-handed. Chapter 3, verse 22 says, and I shall give this people favor in the eyes of the Mitzrites, and it shall be that when you go out, you shall not go out empty-handed. Verse 23 says, but every woman shall ask from her neighbor and from the stranger in her house objects of silver and objects of gold and garments, and you shall put them on your sons and on your daughters, and shall plunder the Mitzrites. The children walked out in high fashion, not in rags. Just a few days ago, they were still doing slave labor, perhaps. Now they're going out dressed for a party in ritzy garments. The people are carrying out jewels and gold and silver and fine fabrics. They're carrying out lumber, because we know that they use lumber later on in the building of certain objects. They had, and not just a little, they were loaded. They were wealthy. Israel was to be paid for all their years of slave labor. Now, here's a principle that we need to remember. You've heard people preach about the text that says that the wealth of the wicked are laid up for the righteous. There are Arabs in Israel, it's been reported, that are building and spending money on building very nice, large homes. What did Yah say about the land of Israel to this crowd? You're going to eat from crops you did not plant, reap from the vines that you did not plant. live in houses that you did not build, and drink from wells that you did not dig. There are structures and things and improvements in the land that are being made by the adversaries of Yah's covenant people. All I can say is build it nice, build it well, and thank you. Thank you. This is going out on the internet, right? 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 18. For the scripture says, you shall not muzzle an ox while it treads the grain. That is quoting Deuteronomy, Davrim chapter 25 and verse 4. And the laborer is worthy of his wages, Vayikra, or Leviticus 19 and 13. This is Rav Shaul's writings, and he is telling us that when an ox is treading the grain, it's allowed to eat of the grain that it is working in. Adam and Chava worked in the garden, and they ate from the produce of the garden. And they could eat freely because they worked in the garden. Noah, when he came off of the ark, was allowed to eat meat because he, for a year, had labored among the animals, and of the clean animals that were on the ark and then reproduced on the earth, man was given permission to eat from that source. For the first time, he could eat meat. Rav Shaul uses this, that when one does ministry from the word, then from the ministry of the word, he should expect to receive a certain reward. You work at your job, and from your job, you receive a paycheck. Compensation for your time and for your labor, for your skill sets. So whatever it is that you work in, from that, you should expect to receive a reward. The children of Israel had worked in Mitzrayim, labored for these people, and was never paid for it. Yah made sure that their hourly wages had been paid, and they walked out with their paychecks. They did not steal. We use the word plunder, but it's not as if they just walked in at the edge of a sword and said, give me or else. The Mitzrites gladly gave it to them. They willingly gave it to them to hurry them out. Take whatever you want. Just go. And they made sure that they were rightly paid. Now, if Yah's up to taking care of that much of detail for us, what else is he willing to do?
Right.
Don't be small in your belief.
Mhm.
Delivering Israel from Pharaoh's enslavement was not just about making their lives easier. Deliverance is not about life improvement. Everything these days is about, life improvement. Well, Yah had his own desires to be satisfied. So question 5 is, what is the repeated purpose of Israel being brought into the wilderness? Why is it that Yah is continually saying that they need to go out into the wilderness? It is for the purpose of freedom to Pharaoh and to Israel. He repeated this purpose of freedom. Let me get my words straight here. He repeated the purpose of freedom for Israel to Pharaoh and to Israel on multiple occasions. In chapter 5 and verse 1, let my people go so that they celebrate a festival to me in the wilderness. And then in chapter 7, verse 16, let my people go so that they serve me in the wilderness. He repeats this phrase over and again. Let my people go so that they may serve me in the wilderness. Yah is requiring Israel to come out of your bondage, out of your servitude, come meet me in the wilderness. Specifically, he has a point of reference in mind, Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, where they are going to serve him. It is there that they receive the instructions about the tabernacle and so forth. We'll study more about that next week. But the design of Yah and the desire of Yah is that they serve me. Well, could they not serve him in Mitzrayim? They could sing, they could dance, but as far as worshiping through the protocols and the rituals that Yah was going to teach them, they were not allowed to do that there. They were hindered. When you are oppressed and in need of deliverance, your service to him is restricted. Yah wants you free so you can fully serve him. Well, that means you cannot learn to live with your oppression. Yah is not asking us to learn to live in enslavement. He wants you free. Free from your past, free from your addictions, free from your fears, free from your pressures, fear from your religion, freedom from all of those things. So we are delivered to worship Yah. And as Americans, we love this word. We are designed to worship him in freedom. Freedom does not mean no boundaries. That's important. Yah establishes boundaries for us. Within the boundaries that he gives to us, there is complete and total freedom of heart and spirit. It's not permitted, however, to go looking for freedom outside those boundaries, because that's where the oppression lives. Oppression will show up as liberty and freedom, and it's anything but. Now, Yah has more than just an exit in mind. Yah's got a plan. Matter of fact, it's a 4-point plan. So he's not just wanting to get you free from anxiety or dilemmas or trying circumstances. Yah is about refining. You may want to write these 3 things down. Yah is about refining you, defining your new purpose, and then determining your new destiny. If you're not willing to be refined, that is character changed, that is getting rid of things that are counterproductive to walking in freedom and learning the things that are free. If you have no new purpose, originally your purpose was, I need my chains off. I need my shackles loosened. I need my cell door open. I need to get out of this oppression system. Once you're out of that, if you don't have another purpose, we tend to go back to what we have already known, and we go back to the systems of oppression, because that's the lifestyle that we've learned to live. No, Yah wants to give you a new purpose. So he's going to refine you, give you a new purpose, and then it's not just the immediate purpose, it's an ultimate destiny. The land. We need to get to the land. And we need to conquer the land. And we need to learn to live in the land. And we need to get into those houses and set up housekeeping. And we need to learn how to sow and to reap in those kinds of fields and those environments. It's a new water system there. It's not the Nile that you do irrigation with. It's the rains in the early season and the rains in the latter season. There's a whole different lifestyle. This is what Yah is doing for us. So Yah reveals his 4-point plan of deliverance. In chapter 6, verses 6 and 7. I shall bring you out from under the burdens of the Mitzrites, and shall deliver you from their enslaving, and shall redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments, and shall take you as my people, and I shall be your Elohim. You shall know that I am Yahweh, your Elohim, who is bringing you out from under the burdens of the Mitzrites. Now, we read these during our Pesach Seder every year. We read them. We may be able to quote them a bit, but are they lifestyle changing verses for us? Boiling it all down, here are the 4 things that I see that Yah says that he is doing for them after I get through this text here. Number 1 is to alleviate their current distress and burdens. I'm going to resolve your current issue and great need. By alleviating that, that is the entire process where he breaks down the Mitzrite system and causes Israel to understand it is no longer a viable system for them. Number 2, he says, I'm going to stop all further enslavement. We're not slaving or trading one system for another system. Yah did not awaken us to the Torah for us to leave a denominational setup to go back into another denominational setup.
Right.
How many of you have been asked, so are you Jewish now? 1. 1 will testify. 2. 3. 4. 5. Okay. So are you guys Jewish now? No. We did not convert from Christianity to Judaism. That's not what we're doing. Well, I don't understand. What are you doing? There's not a real name for this other than we're walking in the middle. Questions at the end, if you can. Go ahead.
My response to that is, I know I've made a new covenant with God, with Yahuwah.
A simple answer is whatever you call reading this book from cover to cover and doing it without excuses. Now, there's temple protocols that can't be done, and there are certain things that the priesthood alone can do. And there's some things for women that is a requirement, and some things for men that are a requirement. If you're not a male or female as appropriate, it's not for you. There are some things that can only be done in the land. Outside of those stipulations, whatever it says that we are to do, we do it to the best of our ability. And if we don't know how, we do the best we can. And the more we do it, the more we learn how to do it. And it's amazing that if you will ask, as we said last week, if we lack wisdom, we can ask him and he'll give us wisdom and show us what to do. He says, number 3, I'm going to redeem. That is, I'm going to pay off your debt, settle all accounts on your behalf by breaking the enslaving system. A president has made a statement about looking into abolishing the IRS. What does that mean? You'll never have to pay taxes again? No, that doesn't mean that. But the system of fear and oppression that an agent's going to show up at your door with a legal pad on a clipboard full of questions and investigations and so forth, and you're going to end up in jail somehow. That's not the modus operandi anymore, if that is indeed the case. God says, I'm going to break the system that enslaved you, and if they no longer exist, you don't owe them anything. I will consider your debts paid. And then finally, he says, I'm going to elevate you to new people status. That is, you're no longer going to be a Mitzrite. You're not going to be a Hebrew Mitzrite. You're not going to be a Mitzrite Hebrew. No more hyphenations here. You're going to be Israel, the covenant people of Elohim. That's your title. That's who you're going to be. You are a brand new people. More on that next week. Now, Yah could have just blinded everybody in Mitzrayim and told Moshe to lead the people out while no one was looking. He could have done that. Matter of fact, when the curse of darkness came upon the Mitzrites, there was light in the dwellings, it says, of the Hebrews. He could have gathered everybody out and said, follow me, and just led them out. But that wasn't Yah's plan, because that would have skipped the last plague that had to be enacted. He could have just struck all the Mitzrites with a deadly plague and killed them all. And then Israel could have just said, well, since everybody's dead, I guess we'll go. And so he left. However, what he chose to do, again, was to use the plagues systematically to destroy all Mitzrayim. By the time y'all got finished, there was nothing green in the land. No vegetation whatsoever. The trees were consumed. The fields were consumed. Cattle had been plagued. People had scars and boils on their body. They were tormented. They were terrified. They spent 3 complete days, 72 hours, sitting immovable under a heavy blanket of darkness, afraid to breathe deeply. And now they're burying the firstborn son in every person's home. He had broken them down to where there was nothing left. Not only to destroy Mitzrayim, but also to reveal to Israel there is nothing left to stay for. Otherwise, Israel would have said, well, we're stronger than they are now. We can just take over. Let's stay. The land was ruined. How long was it going to take? It's amazing. Yah led Israel, the people of the house of Israel, Yaakov's family, down to Mitzrayim to feed them because of a famine. But now there is nothing to eat in Mitzrayim. If you want to starve, stay. But this is your chance to leave. The rabbis say 80% of Israel stayed, believing for a better Mitzrayim tomorrow. Unthinkable. That's unthinkable. But here is the fact. If he doesn't break it, we won't let go of it. Does anybody know that to be true?
Yeah.
If he doesn't break it, we won't hold on to it. So the next time something breaks, and maybe instead of asking, Father, why did you allow that to break? It may be the question of, Father, why did I hold on to it so long? Yes, sir.
So how many people left Mitzrayim? What was it, 1 million plus?
There were 630 some thousand men of war age, adding sons, daughters, and wives, and the elderly to that. It's easy to come to a couple million people.
So that was 20% of the total. So 5 times that was what the crowd would have been. If they
About
had
10
all
million.
left. Yeah. Yeah,
That's a significant number in any culture.
right. Because they found history now that Egypt during a period of time was basically in the Dark Ages. It was a terrible place.
Yeah, agreed. So in chapter 6 and verse number 1, Yahweh said to Moshe, "Now see what I do to Pharaoh, for with a strong hand he is going to let them go, and with a strong hand he is going to drive them out of his land." If Yah's means of deliverance is that you get thrown out, will you be offended and find a way to stay? You've heard the congregational idea of being given the left foot of fellowship.
But the boot.
You get a right hand of fellowship welcome. Sometimes you get the left foot of disfellowship, I guess is the better way to say it. So if someplace, because you are pursuing truth, says you got to go, are you going to try to make amends and stay? Or are you going to realize Yah is delivering you? It's time to go. Chapter 9 in verse number 14. Yah says to Pharaoh, "For at this time I'm sending all my plagues upon your heart," or unto your heart, "and on your servants and on your people, so that you know that there is no one like me in all the earth." Yah is going to reveal himself to denominational leaders, to synagogue leaders, to Hebrew roots leaders, to politicians, to business leaders, to community leaders. Those who walk in authority, Yah is saying, you're going to know who I am. And you're all going to recognize that there is no authority unless I give it to you. And we're answering this last question. What purposes the plagues? Yah's breaking them down. He's breaking what will keep us. He continues in chapter 10, verse 1 and 2. Yahweh said to Moshe, "Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his servants, so that I show these signs of mine before him, and that you relate in the hearing of your son and your son's son what I have done in Mitzrayim, and my signs which I have done among them, and you shall know that I am Yahweh." The purpose of the plagues was absolutely to convince Pharaoh, the pagan governments of this world, and make no mistake about it, Mitzrayim was not the only place hearing about this. The newspapers were running everywhere. The online reports were everywhere in that day. The BuzzFeed about all that was going on in Mitzrayim, how it was being broken down level by level. There were nations, I'm sure, that were licking their chops saying, their army is going to be weak. They don't have enough to sustain them. We can go in and take plunder. What plunder? Israel took it. What are you going to go in there for? And the nations were watching while Israel went through the wilderness. This was not done under a cloak here. This was not a secret operation. This was before the eyes of the nations, the known nations at the time. But not only was Yah systematically revealing himself to the pagan governments and nations and peoples, as I said earlier, he was powerfully revealing himself to Israel. And he said, the reason that I'm doing the plagues is so that you will tell your future generations what I did. Why do your future generations need to know what Yah did generations earlier?
He's the same today, yesterday, and tomorrow.
Mhm.
He's the same.
Yeah, did it then, he could do it again.
So if my grandfather tells me about a miracle that happened in his life or in his grandfather's life, how Yah worked 3 to 6 generations ago, and I can rehearse that story because it's been told to me over and over and over again. When I come up to a similar situation, my prayer can be, you moved for that generation. Yah, I stand as a product of that generation, and I'm asking you to do it in my day. This is what Passover is about. It is the telling of the story. Why do we tell the story every year? So that this generation will hear and know and will teach it to their generations and to the generations that come after them. Well, after a while, does it just become a myth? Does it just become a fable and a story that my mom told me? Not if you experience it personally. Are we willing to face the same kind of dire situations, though, and have those stories, give those stories a chance to be exhibited in our life? No, I'll take the comfort, I'll take the ease, I'll take the easy life. I'd rather not have to get in a situation where I need that kind of miracle. Then you'll never know the walk that the previous generations had.
Right.
All right. Let me give you a homework assignment before we start taking questions. Your homework assignment for next class is to read Shemot or Exodus chapters 19 through 24. And just make some notes for yourself about the actions and the preparations that Israel employed, I guess is a good word, to find freedom in Yah's Torah. When you read the narrative in these chapters, Yah teaches them about how to actually experience freedom based on the Torah. And this is just for your own look and see experiment here. What is it that Yah is doing to create a freedom mindset in them? And then what do they do in response to that? What is he teaching them about freedom? There's one chapter in particular in this set that you're going to say, oh, there's a lot right there. Look at that. All right. So we got a few minutes here. As I was putting this together, I'm thinking, you got too much, it's going to be too long. Got too much, it's going to be too long. We're actually a little ahead of time here a little bit. Jeff, you had a question?
Yeah, it's more a curiosity.
as to why some things are said one way and then they use other terms to express something. They give you an example.
Yes, please do.
And God remembered his covenant, as to say, oh, like this is an absent-minded old man and he forgot and now he remembers. That to me seems, I've always thought that that was kind of disrespectful. What do you, how do you think this is just the writer's sloppy musing?
Well, two things. One is you have to remember that we're translating from not only from Hebrew to English, but from one, what's the word I'm looking for? One paradigm of thought and ways to express that into, we're going from Hebrew thought to Western thought, and we can lose quite a bit there. The other thing is the idea of remembering is not to suggest that he had forgotten, but rather he now chooses to recall in order to bring it into action.
Right, and that's it. He's now in his timetable. His timetable is now, he is working his timetable.
It's as if he took the covenant promise about their deliverance, set it up on a shelf like a can in the pantry. I know where it's at. And when I'm ready, it's within arm's reach. Okay, it's time. The situation has developed where I've been waiting for it to develop, knowing that it was going to be at this moment. Now it's time to remember the covenant and to bring it into action.
Number two,
Number two,
and I'm done. The Mitzrayites, the people and his advisors were coming to Pharaoh saying, what are you doing? You're destroying us. It's obvious that Yahweh is powerful, and nobody's powerful. You have been diminished in our eyes because you have not been able to deal with this, and you're just making things worse.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't a lot of the Mitzrayites exit with the Israelites?
Yes.
There was a mixed multitude that went out with them.
Yeah.
Now, who are the members of this mixed multitude? There could have been Mitzrites. There could have been people from other lands and cultures that had moved there and found it a favorable place to do business. And I got to tell you, the parallels between there and modern America are uncanny.
Right.
And I, by no means, I'm trying to insinuate that our current administration is a Pharaoh administration. But let's also understand that any current government in the earth, no matter what nation or group it's over, fails in comparison to Yah's administration. He raises people up, he uses them as he will, and then he moves on. And when their time of usefulness to him is over, he sets them aside and raises up the next useful situation. So the idea that, right now countries are being invited to come here and do business with us because we're going to create a favorable within our boundaries environment for you to do so. Companies are leaving, or not necessarily leaving their home nation, but they are investing in our nation. As long as America is prosperous, comfortable, we can go where we want to go, do what we want to do, eat what we want to eat, live as we like to live. If Israel were to open the doors tomorrow and say, we understand the Ephraimite people are scattered throughout all of the earth. You are the lost sheep of the house of Israel. We want you to come home and live with us in the land of Israel. How many would say, but you're possibly under attack, and I don't know the Hebrew language, and I don't have a job, and I'll stay. Maybe in a little while, but not right now. American jewelry, Jews in America, oftentimes will say, I don't want to make Aliyah because life is good here. Hint, hint, the rise of anti-Semitism is a beginning of a provoking by the finger of Yah. He's allowing it to where they come to a place where they will cry out and say, we need deliverance. Similar situation. So I saw a third question coming up. Or say,
Well,
listen.
just in that thought about the Mitzrayites and all of the other mixed multitude that went out
Yes.
because they realized and acknowledged Yahweh and they believed. Just like with Passover, some of them sought shelter. Those that said, hey, there's something to this. It's like Joseph and his wife, who was a Gentile, and how this God's making Israel not based on genetics.
All of them, mixed rabble, mixed multitude, and ethnic Hebrews, they all get to the foot of Mount Sinai, and he calls the whole lot of them Israel. And he merges the non-Hebrew people into the Hebrew people. Now, there were cultural issues that rose up, as we will, in our Torah studies, we'll find out.
It's complicated.
Life is always complicated. If there are people involved, it's going to be complicated. Cindy.
So I'm tracking sort of where Jeff is going. I'm sitting here thinking, if only 20% of the Israelites came out, they must have been called. Because you've got a dispersion between the 12 tribes. Why didn't all of Judah come out and all of Zebulun stay back? There must have been the Spirit calling and moving and provoking at that point. And then as they go through the 40 years, this group of people the Spirit provoked to come out are birthing the next ones who are coming into the land, and they have to have the desire and the ability to follow Yah. They have to be set apart, and they have to be willing to be set apart. It's the Father creating the nation in a different way than I'd seen before, all the way from the beginning.
The key phrase you just used there is set apart. They had to be willing to be set apart from Mitzrayim. They had to be willing to be set apart from those that argued against the need to leave Mitzrayim. They had to be set apart in the wilderness to the total vision that Moshe had declared to them. When Moshe came and told them, I'm not able to lead you into the land, Yahushua was going to take you in. They had to be set apart. At that point, they had to be set apart at the report of the 10 spies. We can't go in. It's too big. They're too bad. So sad for ourselves. There was a setting apart, and Yah made that division between generations. But even that second generation that went in, they were still not fully prepared for what's set in front of them. So it's not just those who make the first cut. There are multiple cuts. So I mean, you got to keep winning. The TV shows, the game shows, there are cuts. They keep whittling down the contestants so they get to the final group. You got to be willing. I'm going to make the final group. I refuse to lose out over relational issues or somebody's doctrinal arguments or money, or whatever it is that comes up that really trips people up. And I guarantee you, if you have an offense button in your being, and most of us do, you have an adversary who will find it, and he will not just push it, he will camp out on it and tap dance on it to try to keep you offended. And if you're offended, you're distracted, and you're spending negative energy about things that are not life-giving.
It's difficult, it seems to me, for Americans to think covenant instead of individual, because we're so individually minded in America.
Yes.
That's really hard first to wrap around and then to accept.
It's the difference between Hebraic culture and Western culture. America is Greco-Roman. Our nation's capital's architecture, the design of our Constitution, the concepts that our founding fathers put forth are all based on Greco-Roman concepts and mindsets. We say that we're based on Judeo-Christian concepts. In all reality, it's more like we're based on Western culture. The rights of the individual must not be stepped on. And the nation is better as a whole when the rights of the individual are observed.
I think it was stated, I don't remember which statesman of the founding fathers who stated, if you don't protect the individual, if you protect the individual, you then protect the whole. Because everybody is treated
Equally.
And I think one of the reasons why the Jews are so, like they have kibbutz, communal lands where they all work together and they rotate everybody's function so that they learn, everything there is that's needed to maintain the kibbutz. That collectivism is part of that culture. The collectivism, the working together as community, is why you see them kind of be more tend towards a Marxist ideology because of that collectivism.
Mm-hmm.
But yet it's wrought with danger. And
if you need to dig a trench 100 miles long, you will hire the company with the best equipment that will do it for the least amount of money and with the best history of safety protocols. That's the American way. And a community oriented, you got 10,000 people that will show up with shovels. We'll work together. I'll dig right beside of you and we'll get it done. So it's just a different way of life. All right. Thank y'all for being here. I've kept you for an hour. We try to keep it exactly to an hour as much as we can. After the camera goes off, if you need to ask further questions, we're open to that. You have your homework assignment. And next week, we'll be talking about the freedom that the Torah brings to us. Yah brings his people to Torah and gives them freedom. Torah is not bondage, just the subliminal thought there. All right. Look forward to seeing all of you on Shabbat. Thank you for watching online. We'll see you next week.
it's that mentality that allows them to